So if you're on your home screen, you're going to go to your customer relations here, and then you're going to go to import contacts. When you do that, it's going to open up the wizard, and you're going to walk through the wizard. You'll attach your file. You'll match up all of the items. You'll click next. This screen becomes a matching screen. So what is in the first column, second column, and so on and so forth. So you'll scroll all the way across, making sure that all of these match. Address, city, state, contact type. You click next, it'll be a review. Here it is. We'll click next and it will upload all your contacts. It's going to tell you, hey, we're uploading your contacts. Click finish, and then that contact will automatically be imported here. Hey Tom, so we talked about that a little bit last week as well. I can make this a little bit bigger for you all. I'm working with our software provider to fix that. I'm hoping that bigger will make it a little bit easier, but I also am recording it with a separate software so that the recording that you get today is crystal clear. So the few things that we didn't talk about last week underneath customer relations were really going in. There's a section that says listings, and you can attach a listing to a contact. So that if you have a seller, you can click add listings. It will pull up from your listings that are available. You would select the listing by clicking the select box. And then it is going to attach it here. That way you have a running record of all the listings that are available. Again, to get there, I opened up my contact screen, I opened up the contacts, and I went into the listings tab. I do also want to just mention this overdue. So I can see here that I have some overdue clients that have red flags. That means that I've assigned actions, and on my home screen underneath that past due portion, I have some things that I need to do. So to fix that, I would go in, I would click done. And here I'm going to say, talked to Ryan about listing his home. And I'm going to mark that as saved. I then can go in and assign the next follow-up and schedule it out. Now I can see here I'm all caught up. I can see my actions that are due today. I can see the actions that are due in the next 7 days and the next 14 days. What's really nice is from this screen too, if I need to view this contact, I click view, it will automatically pull up the entire edit screen. I also can email directly from this screen. If the contact has a phone number, I will be able to click the text and or phone number. If you don't want to schedule this follow-up, you can actually say later, and then it won't automatically assign an additional follow-up. But again, the goal is that as you have contacts coming in and you're scheduling some of those manual follow-ups, if you're not using the action plans, that you're completing an action and you're scheduling your next action so that you can really work from that home screen and everything that's going on. The next thing that we're going to talk about and where we're going to spend a lot of our time today is underneath this listings tab. So underneath the listings tab is where you're going to go in to edit your listings. When you get a new listing, you're going to get something that looks like this. So it's going to say, hey, congratulations. Sharon, you have a new listing, and do you want to share it on social media or see the web pages? Would you like to print out a property flyer, or would you like to order your postcards? So you're going to get that email. That means that you know that that your listing is live on your website. Your listing is ready to go. It's been pulled from MLS. And it also means that you can then go in and edit your listings. To do that, you can go from your home screen and click on active listings here, or you can go into listings and for sale listings here. Either place you can absolutely go in and edit them. Once you do that, you could go in and you would select the listing you wanted to edit. So we'll go in and we'll choose this residential listing. From within the listing, you can share it. So there are sharing tabs here where you can share it on social media using Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. You also can view the website. So when I click on view, I'm able to see the details listing. There is also a showcase page, and the showcase page is just a little bit different. Here it is. You can go in and it really displays the listing beautifully and is a more of a showcase style, where this is more informational. You can attach any digital tours you have. So if you have a Matterport tour or a different tour that you want to attach, you can attach up to 3 video tours here. As you scroll farther down, you'll see a section that says seller. So if you need to attach your seller, you can type in their name here. It will be pulling from your customer relations tab. If your customer is not in yet, you would click the person, and then you could easily add them in here. You also will give them a username and password, because every seller gets a seller's portal. Again, you can add their email address, all of that. You click save. And I highly recommend making this username and password systematically. So you're going to say, hey, your username is your first name, last name, and your password is your phone number, first initial, last initial, or whatever it is. But that way you have a systematic way to do that. Once the seller is added, they can go to their seller portal here, and they'll be able to view all the statistics about their home. Here's what my listing looks like. Here's the impressions that it's had. It will always show your contact information on the left-hand side of the screen. It will also show the website views that their property is getting, so that they can log in and see what's happening with their listing. Within that seller portal, there's also a section that's called Property Story. So how many of you have sellers that have interesting stories about their homes? Anyone? Yes? No? Maybe? Tom, Harrison, Brenda, Brittany, anybody have sellers that have interesting stories? If you're nodding yes, just type a Y in that chat box. I'm not going to ask you to tell the story. So if you do, they can go in and they can say, hey, I want to type my property story here. They would go in, they would say, hey, I have a great story about how my neighbor's house is haunted and la, 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 la. They click OK. You as an agent get a notification. And then at the bottom of this details tab, as I scroll all the way down, there is a section that says property story. that would populate in this box, and you choose whether that is active or inactive. So it will automatically default to inactive, and you can go in and make it active. That way, if Melanie has a client that says something odd, which we all know that not all sellers are as eloquent as we would like them to be. Also, sellers typically don't know about fair housing laws. You can go in and you can manually edit that story. You also can choose to not display that story if you don't want to. Above that, there's a section that is pulling from the MLS. So it's pulling all your MLS remarks. But if you want to change your MLS remarks and make them more personalized, you can absolutely do that. Oftentimes what I see when people are doing something like that is within the MLS, there are restraints on characters. So you can only say, like this one says 5 bedrooms. This 5-bedroom home has it all. You could go in and you could actually type out all of the things that you needed to that way. Once you do that, please be sure to click save. And once you modify it, this section will no longer be updated by the MLS. You will get an alert. It will say, hey, there's an alert that this is happening, and that is that. Also, at the top of the screen, you're going to see a few options. The first one we're going to talk about today is the print or email flyer. When you click print or email flyer, you can choose a flyer to easily be printed out. There are several options in here. Luxury homes, just reduced flyers, just listed, different layouts for you to choose from. So we might say, hey, I want to do just sold flyers that you can do. I want to choose this flyer. It will pop out the edit screen. It will automatically insert all of your listing information. I'm going to just give it a quick minute to process. Now, everything that when I hover my clicker over highlights, I can edit. So if I want to change the title from just listed to new listing, I can do that. If I want to change the photos, so I want to say, hey, I don't need 2 photos of this fairway. I want to change this one. I can click on it. And then when I go to the property, it's going to pull all the photos that are associated with that property from the MLS. So you're not having to upload a whole bunch of photos. It will automatically crop those photos to the right size to insert into that flyer. And I can continue to edit. So if I want to change my contact information or my photo or the description, I can do that. And then I have a few options. I can save and get the HTML. I can save and print, or I can save and email that flyer. If I click save and print, it's going to open up in another window as a PDF. You do need to make sure that you do not have your pop-up blocker on for the page. But here's the flyer. It automatically generates it. 1-page flyer, your information, all of that is here. All of your saved content is accessible underneath Marketing, My Saved Content, so you can always get back to it. But that's where you go to print or email your flyers for your properties. There's also a section that's called maps. So if you need to edit the location of the map pin drop, you can do that. You can also attach documents. So if you have a detailed plot map or something that you want to be public and an attachment for your website, for that listing website, you can absolutely attach it underneath that attachments file. You would click upload a file, and then you would add your file here. The next section we're going to talk about is this reports tab. And I really think that this is the coolest feature. So after you've added your seller to the listing, you have the opportunity to set them up with seller reports. You would go in, you would set the competition, so the price range for the competition, as well as a map location. You also, on the right-hand side, can choose what you want it to show. Do you want it to show listing details? Do you want it to include showing activity? Do you want it to include the web activity? And then you can either view that report, send that report, or schedule that report. If you want to view it, when you click on view, it will always show your agent information in the upper right-hand corner. And then it's going to show everything about the listing. So here's the listing information. Here is the overview. So in the last 2 weeks, there's been 7 views and 4 of them have been on the internal website. Here's the referrals. This shows the charts of how people are finding the listing. And all web activity. How many times is it appearing in searches? So your seller can see that the week of the 12th, it appeared in 4 searches. The 13th, it appeared in 1. The 24th, it was in 4. So you really get an idea of who and where they're looking at the website. As you scroll up, the best part about this is the scheduling feature. So when you go to a listing appointment to get a listing, say I'm going to Harrison's house. I say, hey Harrison, I'm super glad to be here to be talking about listing your home. How many other people are you interviewing? And Harrison usually says, I'm going to interview 2 to 3 agents, or I'm interviewing 2 agents, or whatever it is. Once I know that, I can say that's awesome. I think it's really important that you have a good personality fit, but I want to just talk about a couple things. As real estate agents, we all do some really similar things, and we're all going to come up with a price that is fairly similar. So within $10,000, we should be pretty close on price. So I really don't want to talk about how we're going to price your home, because that's something that we all do the same. What I want to talk about is after you list your house with me, what's going to happen. And the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to give you a seller portal where you can go in and you can share stories about your property. And you can also view statistics about how your home or your property is being found online, so that you can log in at any time and see that. I also am going to send you a weekly report on the statistics of what's your competition and how people are getting to your listing, so that you have that information in a detailed email format from me. You would say, hey, I want to send this every week. I don't have a seller attached to this. I click save, and it's automatically going to go out on behalf of you every week. The nice thing about that piece is, as an agent, once it's set up, you do not have to set it up again. So once it's set, you can set it and forget it. How many of you are getting your sellers some kind of report at this time that talks about how people are getting to their listing? How many of you think this is a tool that you would use for your listings now that you know that you have it? Yes or no in that chat box. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Something to keep in mind is this report sends, if I say right now, send this report every week, it's going to send that report at 11:22 in the morning every week. So please make sure you're setting this up during regular business hours instead of 3 o'clock in the morning when we're all catching up on work. Yes, Sheila, it frees you up to do other things. The last thing that I want to talk about underneath listings is, or underneath the individual listing, is this action plan. So just like with contacts, you can have an action plan for a listing. This helps keep you on track for what needs to be done for your marketing plan for your listings. To add an action plan, you would click on the plus add button here. And there are a few action plans in here for you to use. You're going to click plus and check new listing action plan, and it's going to show you what needs to be done. Make sure you put up the sign, order your flyer sheet. To complete an action, you would go in, you would click on complete. You're going to add a note. And click save. If you decide you don't want this action plan, you could just click on the delete button next to the action plan. It will take away all incompleted actions. You also can go in and add individual actions similarly to how you would for a contact. You're going to click plus new. You're going to add an action type name. This might be, perhaps it is share on social media, or maybe it is add the seller or set up seller reports. You're going to say set up reports. This is due by Saturday, and I'm going to assign it to myself or to the co-listing agent and click save. And now I have an additional action plan. What's really nice is when I go in and click complete, it's going to ask me to do the things that I need to do to complete that action. So instead of having to go in, set up the seller reports, then go back to the action plan and say, yes, I did that, I can work my whole plan from right here. I can say, okay, I need to complete my action plans. Okay, I want this to send out every week. I want to put the seller in. Here's the price competition. I put all of this in and I click complete. You also can delete things. So if you say, hey, I don't want to do this, you can click on actions and click delete. And you can do the same thing for completed actions. All of those things will show up in your history so that you can see what's going on. But that actions tab and that reports tab, the goal is that you're communicating with your seller and you're setting up a marketing plan that works for you and your seller to promote your listings. Any questions about the details or listings tab? Again, we got here by going from our home screen. We clicked on active listings. And then we found our listings and we opened it up. Cool. Let's talk about open houses. So there's also a section underneath listings that's called open houses. This is where you can schedule your open houses for your listings. So when I go in, I can see that there is an open houses in here. You can add an open house, and there's two different things in here. There's an open house and there's an opportunity. An opportunity means I'm the listing agent and I need someone to hold this house open on Saturday from 10:30 till 2. And that means that underneath the opportunities, anyone in my office could go in and elect to hold that open. So if you have a house that you need help hosting open, you can schedule it as an opportunity. That opens it up to everybody in your office to help you out to hold it open. Once you've scheduled your opportunity, you have a few things you can do. So right from that actions button, you can easily edit it. So if you say, hey, I'm holding this open, but I can only be there from noon to 2, you can edit that. You can also edit who's holding it. And now I can see, okay, Douglas is holding this open on Saturday, October 5th. Once you schedule this open house, it is going to show on your company website and on all of your coworkers' websites. So let me just open this up. And we're going to search for that property so I can show you what it looks like. Right here, it's going to show there's an open house. I also, when I open up that listing, it's going to show that open house banner across the top of the listing. So it's going to say, hey, has an open house on the 5th from noon to 2. It's being held by Douglas Toombs. It's listed by Victo. You also get an open house sign-in sheet. So if I go over to actions and I go into sign-in page, I, as the hosting agent, have a beautiful sign-in sheet where my customers that come into the open house can easily put in their information, choose when they're looking to move, add comments if they would like, and they can sign in. At that point, they can choose to have that property texted or emailed to them. And when they do that, after it's done, it times out and back to the screen in about 30 seconds. The contacts from the open house go into the person who is hosting the open house's database so that you're capturing leads. The nice thing about this is you don't have a piece of paper with everybody's information out for them. You're capturing leads. You're giving a person an ability to put in the comments, are you working with another agent? I am. Awesome. Would you mind putting that in the comment section so I know who to follow up with? You've got great feedback for your sellers on who's attending the open houses. And you've got a beautiful photo of this. When the client gets the link to their phone or to their email, and just bear with me while I'm opening up the email to show you. The email will look like this. Here's the address. It shows the agent who is hosting the open house. All of the information right here for your client, as well as your contact information. So you're providing instant information for those consumers. If you need to delete an open house, you would go into actions, you would click delete, it would remove it. It will remove it from your website and the company website. So now if I go in and I refresh this screen, One Tree Lawn Boulevard, notice there's no longer an open house at the top of the screen. Again, to get there, we went to listings, open houses. I read a statistic about a month ago, and I would tell you where I read the statistic. I honestly don't remember, though, that said buyers and consumers, when searching for a property, search the word open house up to 3 times a week. And so it does really benefit you to be putting your open houses into your IQ office as early and as often as possible. Again, it's going to show on your website. It will also show on all your colleagues' websites. Any questions on that section? For open houses, listings, things you can do with your listings, how to set an action plan, all of that. Tom, you're like the A+ responder for questions. So listings are fairly straightforward. You can go in, listings, you're going to edit them, you're going to create your flyers, you're going to add your sellers. So on this screen, you're going to go ahead, you're going to add your sellers, you can add a story, you can add attachments so that there's public attachments, you can do showings so there's, or reports so there's reports. Crayola, I believe you're on here. Yeah, Crayola, are you guys going to be using this for setting up showings? Or are you using a different software? I'm going to wait for that response before I tell you that. So you also, like that print email flyer, sending it out to contacts, creating your content, using the details page, the showcase page, or the branded single listing website, easily sharing it to social media by one click is all right there within the edit screen. The listing section is a lot of information in a very consolidated 35 minutes. Sheila, Sharon, Melanie, Mary, Harrison, Brittany, Stephanie, Andrew, Derek, any questions? Sure, shoot. Go ahead, Derek, ask that question. Just to go ahead, type it in that chat box. What the other thing that I would like to do is open it up to anything that we have covered so far. So do you have questions underneath the customer relations tab? Do you have questions about your profile? Do you have questions about your websites and editing your website? Derek, we are going through that next week, but I'm happy to jump in. So no, let's do it. We've got time. So Derek's question for all of you that aren't looking at the chat box is this. How do you set up a special home anniversary card to send out to people on their home anniversary? The first part of that is making sure that within your contact screen, so if I go in and I look at my contact here, at the very bottom, I can add their transaction date. So I'm going to say, okay, this person bought a home on July 18th, 2019, and that address was XYZ 10 Versailles Street. When you do that, you need to make sure you click Save. Then what you'll do is, and we'll go into this in further detail, so if this is super fast and over your head, do not panic. We're going to go into the marketing section and we're going to create content by going to My Saved Content. When you do that, we're going to add a card. So first we're going to just create a card. And there is a whole bunch of stock stuff in here. So we're going to go in, we're going to choose Home Anniversary. Event Home Anniversary. Here are some stock images. So we're going to say, hey, happy home anniversary. I can edit any text that I can hover over. Then once I've done editing, I click save. And then, Derek, what you would do is you would add it to a campaign. So you're going to go into marketing. We're going to create a campaign. And you can add multiple events to a campaign. So this might be, maybe this is my circle of influence. I'm going to choose from my content. I'm going to choose my home anniversary card. And then I can choose to send it using a transaction date after 1 year. Happy 1 year and home anniversary. Send it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Next. Continue. Finish. You do need to add people to that. So you would then go in and say, hey, I need to add people to this campaign based on contact type, my 2019 buyers. So that was super fast. You can rewatch this. There are links to that on YouTube as well. But first you'd go in, you'd create your content, then you'd add that content to a campaign. We'll get further into everything that you can do with those campaigns. There's a lot more within that and a lot more within content that we're all going to go through next week. Yes, Melanie, I can absolutely send the link to all the tutorials again. So we did have most people get in and work on things last week. After today, we have one more session next week. So next week we have a session we're going through through marketing, campaigns, and action plans. It's a lot of information. Between now and next week, what I really want to encourage you to do is to get in, add your contacts, set up a portal, and start going in and attaching your listings to your contacts. And if you have listings, setting up your seller reports. That's from now until next week. Next week, we're going to go through all the marketing and everything you can do. What will happen is after next week, mark your calendars. We do training every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. There is a training that goes into one specific element of IQ Office. And next week, I want to believe it's farming and how to set up a farm and farm within your IQ Office. This last week, we talked about blogging to increase your search engine optimization. So there's a ton of training coming up. So don't think, shoot, after next week, I need to know it all. But it is super beneficial to get in there and really start working. Other questions? Great questions, Derek. Melanie, yes, I can resend all of those tutorials. Also, this messaging section right here, know that you can go into this messages, and this will have a list of all your IQ messages. And you can actually see it. So here's the email that went out last week, recap on today's session. Here's all of the links. Today's training from last week. So again, to get there, I went to messaging and opened up my main message dashboard, and then you can scroll through your IQ messages to find those information. Heather, that is a great question. So Heather asked, how do I share my contacts with another agent? And there's a couple ways to do it. The first way you can do it is if I want to share one contact. So I only want to share Kelsey with another agent. So I want to share this contact with one other agent, but not all my contacts. I would open the contact up. I would click on the recycle symbol next to the agent, and then I would select that person from a list. So I can go in, I would choose Heather. I would add a note. Here is the contact. And I would retain myself as the owner. That means I still own the contact, but Heather has access to this one contact. Once I do that and I click save, it's going to show here that Heather is the user and I am the owner. So Heather can see that contact here. If I need to share all of my contacts, so I'm going to go into Tools and Preferences, and I'm going to go into Contacts here. So Tools, Preferences, and then to Sharing. Click on Contacts, and I can click Plus New, and I can share my all my contacts with Heather and give her permissions. Is she allowed to create, update, and delete? Yes, and click Save. And now all of my contacts will also appear underneath Heather's contacts. You can also filter. So once you have started sharing contacts, there will be a box that appears here that says View by Owner. Because I still own all these contacts, I can't filter by owner. They're just all mine. But on Heather's screen, she'll be able to see View by Owner Kelsey. So you can share all your contacts by going to Tools, Preferences, and setting up a share. You also can share individual contacts by going into the contact and changing the user by using that recycle symbol. Does that answer your question, Heather? Awesome. And Sharon and Melanie, did that make sense on where to go to get those emails? So from your home screen, you would go to New Messages, and all of those messages for the recaps are right here. Cool. Other questions? Sheila, Melanie, Crayola, Brittany, Stephanie. I want to make sure that we're getting everybody the answers. Yeah, so Melanie, make sure when you go to upload your contacts, import your contacts. Yep. Do you see a next button at the bottom right here? You're going to choose your file, and then as you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to click Next. Maximize your screen. If you make your screen bigger, you'll see that next button. Awesome. Derek, so what you're going to do for a My Group for Special email blast, it is best practice for an email blast that is going out to more than 50 people to use a marketing campaign. So you'll go in and you want to really drill down by contact types so that you can say, hey, this is an all contact type. This is a whatever that contact type is that you want on that. Because when you're using a campaign, you can, just bear with me quick while I open up another screen here. And I'll make this bigger as well. When you're using a campaign, you get statistics for that campaign. So you can go in, you can see how many attempts there's been, how many clicks there have been, how many errors they've been. You can also go into each individual event and see what's happening. So you can say, okay, this one had 8,000 sends, 8,100 were received, 3,200 were read, 38 were clicked on. This is what's happening within it. So best practice is to send it out as a campaign. To set up your groups, you're going to go in and you're going to add that group as a contact type. And then when we're creating our campaigns next week, you'll create campaigns based on contact type. Okay, I'm going to go through that too. Yes, Heather, there is a preset action plan for buyers. If you go into that actions tab and click on add, there are 2 action plans that are in there right now that are set up by your company. Derek, what I would do, so Derek's question for all of you that are looking is, some of my imports aren't categorized, but I want us to send a campaign to all, and I have to select them individually. So this is what I would do for that, is I'd go to customer relations. I would create a company contact type. So I'm going to go manage contact type. I'm going to add all contacts as a contact type. And then what I can do is from within my contacts dashboard, I can choose to display up to 1,000 people on this screen. I'm going to check this box here in the upper left-hand corner. And at the bottom of the screen, I can add them all to a contact type at one time. I'm going to add them to my all contacts contact type and click save. And now you can create a campaign based on all contact types. So Derek's comment is hilarious. So just so if you guys aren't reading it, Derek said, all right, Smarty Pants, you make it so easy. You are never going to know everything about the system. I learn something new about the system at least twice a week. I've been using it since 2012. There's a ton of information in here. If you don't know the answer, please feel free to ask. We are here to help you. We are here to make your life easier. That Facebook group is a great place to ask questions. We answer in video format. If you haven't joined that Facebook group, you can find it. I'll share the link right now so that you all know where to go. We really do our best to answer questions in a user-friendly way that makes sense. And it is better to ask a question because there may be an easier answer than what you're thinking. So I can see here, like Lisa Rowland in Texas just asked a question. I will go live and answer her question, and the same for Steve Oliver. I'll go live and I'll answer his question. So this is a great place to ask those questions. Awesome, that's super exciting, Derek. And now at your listing appointment, you can talk about reports. Other questions from you all? Heather, Melanie, Sharon, Brittany, Michael, I want to make sure that I'm answering everybody's questions for them. Awesome. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the session. You will get an email here in the next half hour or so that will have the copy of the recording with the links from everything from today. Please go ahead and click on that link in the chat box to the Facebook group. We'd love to have you join us. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday at 8 a.m. my time, 11 a.m. your time, and we'll talk soon.